sugarcoating anything or trying to run away from anything. I'm telling you straight what the Prophet told me and us, and what the Quran told me. And the Quran says, أَن تَضِلُّوا إِحْدَاهُمَا فَتُذَكِّرْ إِحْدَاهُمَا الْأُخْرَى. If one of them goes in her testimony,
she forgets or goes astray.
If she goes astray, then the other one will help her. Yeah. So the question is, what does this mean? My conclusion from that corpus is that Islam, frankly, paints a picture of women that their intellect or their rationality is not impaired. No, is less than a man's intellect. I'll tell you what I mean by that. But the words are very, very important. Yeah. Aql means literally your ability. It could mean two things in the Arabic lexicon. If you go to the Quran, the word aql comes from the Arabic word aqul. Aqul literally means the entire camel's head to control it. In fact, you know what the Arabs wear on their head? This is a kind of aqal. Anyways, which is the same thing. When you're talking about emotions, and you were talking about these things, aql is the ability to control your emotions. Literally, it's different from the word ilm. Now, the hadith did not say that the women are naqisat wa ilmun wa deen. It didn't say that they're deficient in knowledge. The Quran holds knowledge is higher than aql, first and foremost. Because as I mentioned in the speech, يَرْفَعَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. That Allah, He raises the ones that are high, that have been good knowledge given, that believe among you, and the ones that have been given knowledge in positions. Yeah. So in other words, there's nothing in the Quranic or Hadith discourse to suggest that men are more knowledgeable than women on a base level, and that both men and women have a equal opportunity and biological capacity to be as knowledgeable as one another. Yes?
But it does.
No, but hold on. But it does say aql, which means to say, to be honest with you, that a man, according to the Islamic discourse, is better at controlling their emotions than a woman. I would say to you, this is a non-controversial statement based on even Simone de Beauvoir's work. Simone de Beauvoir, which is a second-wave feminist, in her first chapter or second chapter, entitled Biology, explicitly mentions that women, what you just took kind of problem with, women are more emotional than men in the sense that, and she mentions that their physiological, she mentions this, her physiological predisposition don't allow her to remain as composed as men. Second wave and third wave feminists, and that's why I think people have a disconnect with the academic works, agree with the Quran and agree with the Islamic tradition, agree with the Hadith. There's no disagreement here, by the way. What we're saying is that there are certain things a man will be better at testifying than a woman in. For example, and I'll tell you what they are, it's not just financial transactions. In fact, it's a range of different things, and some of those things, some scholars say a woman is not allowed to even testify at all in. Did you know that? Well, her testimony is not even valid in any case. Did you know that? Alright, so that I'm telling you now, that verse is specific to economic transactions. There are things in Islam where a woman's testimony is not, according to some scholars, and I have to make this caveated, is not even valid.
Right.
However, and I'll say this again, there are some things which a woman's testimony is more, shahada, not the way, is more valid than a man's testimony. Wait a minute, now you're throwing the spanner in the woodworks. Now you're throwing the cat with the pigeons. What's going on? Okay. For example, adultery. A lot of scholars say if a woman testifies, even if you get 100 women, 100 women, and they all see the pen going into the ink, that will not be accepted. The man will, and the woman will not be.
Why is that?
No, that's just what some scholars say. Yeah, that women do not have a dakhli, they don't have a thing in that. And they say that, for example, in murder cases, women don't have. Why? Hikmah, I can say, well, the Prophet told us women have a less mature way of emotionally coping with that particular situation. In other words, if murder happened, women would not know how to compose themselves in the same way as a man would, and therefore their testimony would be impaired in that sense. Yeah. However, there are things, and I believe that is uncontroversial. David Stove was very, by the way, I was talking about him in the lecture. He was very, very, very controversial when he wrote in one of his books, that men are more intelligent. He actually said that. I'm not saying that, I'm saying, and he gave us.
We might go inside there. It's really cold.
Don't close the pathway.
And the Quran says, إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ رَبِّي. Sorry, what?
Standing in the way, asking you to move aside.
Okay. The Quran says, إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ رَبِّي الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ وَالْإِثْمَ وَالْبَغْيَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. he tells us what the worst in Surah Al-A'raf, chapter 7 of the Quran, sins are. And he says, and to say about Allah what you don't know. So if I know for a fact that something has been said about Islam, it's not my place to try and forge or kind of fit Islam into the social construct so that it can be kind of comfortable and think, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you all that I know and tell you, and then you can make your decision.
Right.
Yeah, do you get me?
Yeah.
Alright, so I've said to you now, just to summarize, Riwayah is different from Shahada. Riwayah, man and the woman are the same. In fact, the Dhahabi, who's one of the top Islamic scholars, he says that there's only 4 women that tukullima fihinna, that they have been spoken about. In other words, that Jarh has been done to them. In other words, women have a better track record in narration according to Al-Dhahabi than men do. And according to the majority of scholars, women, Al-Dhahabi in fact, he said himself that 1/4 of all hadith have been collected and collated and transmitted exclusively by women, exclusively. And that the other 3/4 is a mix between men and women. Women are deeply involved in the Islamic scholarly tradition and riwayah. However, Shahada, the Islamic thesis is that, according to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that women are not able to control their emotions, in my opinion, and the Prophet's opinion, as good as men. And that's very well, it's not controversial.
It's not controversial, but like...
Sorry. Let's go outside, let's go outside.
No, he just wants to go this one.
Alright.
So maybe we should call you off.
Do you get me? So, let me just finish up about it. Because I think she wants that. Sorry, I'm going to give you what it is and I can't do it. Alright, so let me say one more.
Oh look, I'm being led astray. I have a fickle mind. So basically, my point is that, is it not possible that this whole idea that women are not emotionally mature is a social construct?
I didn't say that. I said that women are less emotionally mature than men. That's what I said.
There you go. Right. Okay, asterisk, less emotionally mature, right? Than men.
Yes.
Right. So is it not possible that this whole like lower level of maturity has been like socialized into us?
Maturity.
Yeah, emotional maturity has been like socialized into us
Not
rather than it being an innate thing.
I would say not according to secular offenders. Not according to Muslims or secular offenders.
But this is the thing though, like if I say I'm a feminist, right, you can't like just be like, oh, there you go, Frieden, she said this, so therefore you must be accountable, or therefore you must agree also with this.
No,
like,
no,
we're not a homogenous group, of course, right?
Okay.
And you're not the same as a rapist. You as a man are not the same as a rapist, right? You're not a homogenous group.
Sorry?
Okay, I'm just saying to you that this is, you were asking about social construct, so I say to you, to what extent? Because sociology is the study of societies and people within that society, Alright, so biology is the study of the human body, it's the functionality. Physiology is the kind of between psychology and the biological/neurological framework. And I say if we look at that whole corpus of the studies that have been and all those things, we will come to certain conclusions, which I believe that's the wonderful Quran was in fact correct and accurate in outlining, which is that men have fewer, I would say, emotions which are able to kind of obscure judgment. That's what I believe that's her conclusion, right? And I agree with that conclusion. I think that's
you don't. I mean, by your own observation, you don't see that.
No.
You see, men and women are emotionally exactly the same.
What about like during periods and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, good question. No, but I'll ask you a question, right? So, it's not, hold on, before you say something, because what you're saying is unscientific. And I'm not saying that unscientific, it means it's definitely true.
I mean, if you start like referring to things like estrogen, we do have a maternal instinct.
So, okay,
but that's
excellent.
not.
So estrogen versus testosterone.
Okay.
Me and you will agree that the physiological, biological makeup of men on a hormonal level is different, right? So my question is, what differences in emotional demeanor does estrogen have on a human body? What does it do?
Well, it provides a maternal instinct.
Okay, that's all. Does it make a woman cry more easily than a man?
I don't think so.
No, you're wrong about that. It does make a woman
Yeah,
cry.
but I mean, if we're going down like the hormones, like there are people who argue, for example, if like Chinese men, for example, they're like, oh, they have like more estrogen, they're more feminine than like, oh, than like men from other races and black women have like more testosterone. So then the argument, then if you're gonna like, if we are gonna like go that
I'm
down,
not just saying testosterone.
Can I
I'm saying there's a range of factors, of which hormones are an important player. I'll say something else, by the way.
Can I just
One more thing. just because I forgot to mention this, yeah? Batu, one more thing. One more thing. Moreover, I'll tell you that just to kind of mention something, yeah? Islam, I said to you before, there are some things in which, yes, I agree with you, yeah? 2 versus 1, yeah? Rule applies to some things which some scholars will even do more than that. However, there are some things in which Islam allows a woman to have a higher testimony than a man, shahada, not the way. For example, there was a woman, and this is Sahih Bukhari, I forget the name of Sahih, but basically a woman came to the man, and she said to him, she's a black woman, which obviously historically black people have been marginalized, women have been marginalized. Okay, I agree. So she was a black woman. She came to the Prophet, there was a Sahabi and his wife. She said, I breastfed both of them. According to Islamic law, if you breastfeed a man and a woman, they can't marry each other. They both disagreed with the Prophet and said, disagreed with that woman and said, no, that's not what happened, yeah? He took her testimony over their testimony. She was a black woman. Now, that's an example of a shahada, not ya'an and not riwayah. I'm talking about shahada. For a woman was more than that of a woman and a man. Do you get me? Why? Because it was in the why? Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he was one of the people who, in Fath al-Bari, mentions the sharh of this. He says one of the main reasons why this was the case was because this was her area of specialism. She had the better recollection, and therefore it made sense. We say there are certain things in the world which are not the specialism of women, and that a woman, no matter how much she environmentally try to change herself in, will not be able to compete with men in. One of those things is fighting. One of those things is being able to keep bravery. It's a bravery. Women are not, I would say, too straight.
We're not talking about exceptions.
We're talking about general rules, yeah? Men are braver than women. I would say that straight to you.
Swear. You know all the women who are dying to literally protect their children.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
I'm
braver.
Maybe brave is not the right word. Maybe brave is not the right word.
Just for context, yeah? That's rude. But anyways,
no, I don't know what that's.
Yeah, okay, listen. So basically, we were talking about military prowess and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
I come from a Kurdish background. We have so much, like, our women forces are even better than that of men.
Okay, well, that's your subjective opinion.
Listen. On TV, he's also Kurdish.
Fighters. I know that.
Listen, don't go there, man.
It is one thing.
Can I just wrap it up?
Men are braver than women.
Can I just wrap it up? Yeah?
Sorry, I'll say that straight to you.
Can I
And
just
they have a right to be.
Sister,
The reason why they're braver is because they have a right, they have a reason to be. Because they can take more risks and be hurt less than a woman can. That's the reality.
There's things men can do, women can't. There's things women can do, men can't. Simple as. In this
Men
instance,
cannot give birth to children.
Exactly.
You know what you
in this
said when you were
instance,
standing up there? It was like ridiculous.
Let her back to say.
we're gonna refute some points on that. Don't worry, leave that. What I'm just trying to say is this, sister. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said something. Yeah. Okay. Do me and you know better, or Allah and His Messenger?
Well, of course, Allah.
Okay. So all we're saying is some. I'm not saying this with all aspects. Yeah? We're not Christians, blind follow, just believe. No, you ask questions, it's good. But instead of he's got testosterone, no, he's got this, he's got that. All we're saying is the Prophet, peace be upon him, said this. Now you can have 2 options. You either say, you know what, I reject the Prophet and Allah, I believe this, or you say, you know what, I have trust in my Lord and the Messenger He sent. On the Day of Judgment, in front of Allah, say, Allah, this was revealed. What did you mean by that? Which option would you go for?
Obviously, like the latter.
Then I would say, this it's not just with you. I have a lot of questions like this. One was asking, why did we get here? Why am I here? Those questions, you know what I do? On the Day of Judgment, I trust my Lord. I'm not going to risk my hereafter for that. I'm going to ask Allah on the Day of Judgment, oh Allah, why did this and this happen? Do you get it? So what I would say is the best thing to do with this is have you trust in Allah. It doesn't mean, look, Islam is not a religion where it degrades women. The woman, the rights you had 1400 years ago, the Western woman got 100 years ago, yeah? So keep that in mind with this specific aspect. Have trust in your Lord. Don't let it get to you and be like, no, this is how it is. No. Just take it with that.
Where we live and where we live.
And that's the best thing you do.
Of course. I'm able
This
to.
is an effective.
You wouldn't be asking these questions. You wouldn't be asking these questions if you lived and were born in Kurdistan
Of course I wouldn't
50
be,
years
because
ago.
I would be indoctrinated.
No, you are even now you're indoctrinated.
I'm able to critically analyze what I see.
But even today you are indoctrinated.
The fact that you're asking this
It's
question,
different
you're
information,
indoctrinated.
different
Not
times.
really, because
You know what?
if you see my mother, she's treated like by my dad,
that's
and she doesn't question it. She thinks it's a normality.
No, sister, we're not saying that's right. Don't get these two confused. Just because that's happening, don't correlate this with what the Prophet said.
We're talking about indoctrination and critical analysis as well.
Okay. So what I'm saying is,
Separate matter.
I'm look. I'm not going to get into personal, yeah? What happened with your mum? Mate, it's wrong, it's right, I don't know, yeah? If she's been oppressed, that's a different story. I'm saying with this specific matter, can we have trust in Allah and His Messenger in this specific aspect? No, just with this aspect. Because not with the whole religion.
It's a circular argument, you know.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't win the bump.
So what's your ultimate? What's your main point? What's really? I mean, what's being discussed
I
here?
mean, like, I think I made that clear.
Yeah, she has.
Right. So the bottom line is, if you believe in Allah,
Yeah.
if you really truly believe in Allah, and I believe you do, alhamdulillah, yeah, then there comes a point where you have to sami'na wa ata'na. In Arabic it means we hear and we obey. Simple. You cannot ask Allah, why did you make the planet Earth square? Why did you make it round or egg shaped? Why did you make it?
Another thing was like, for example, cut this out of the camera, yeah? Go into